I know there are a lot of YouTubes out there discussing the inadequacies of the Bible, but it's such a fertile topic, I just had to add another bit to the pile. So, have you ever noticed that the commandments God gave to Moses and the commandments God gave to his only son are quite different? In fact, it seems that God couldn't even agree on which version he wanted Moses to abide by. So why is it when the religious right are screaming that we humans only get our morals from God's commandments that this is never mentioned? Why is it that when a Christian is fighting for the commandments, they're reverting back to the 10 Commandments of Moses? Are the other versions just supposed satanic verses and should be ignored? Why aren't they demanding the more modern commandments that Jesus laid out? They like everything else Jesus did, so why not use his rules? Maybe we'll be able to understand this better if we take a closer look at what those 10 Commandments say.
Okay, let's look at Moses version number 1. This is the one that God gave to Moses on stone tablets that Moses promptly destroyed without even reading them aloud to God's special chosen people. Somehow, this is the most popular version, even though, based on the stories in the Bible, no one ever knew what was written on those tablets, except God, and whoever happened to be writing down this series of events. So there's little hope that this ancient people actually followed any of these rules. Yet you'll find versions of this set of commandments everywhere. So why is it that this is the version most commonly used? Seems to me that the later version God gave to Moses, the one that actually made it down the mountain and was read to the people, would be the one Christians would prefer for us to follow. Let's take a look at God's revised list. Well, that's not very good, is it? I mean, do we really need to know that thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven is something that really twists God's panties into a wad? Besides, what sort of morals are we supposed to glean from that pearl of wisdom? Or better yet, how about commandment number 13, thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk? How many of us today regularly not only raise goats, but kill the babies and process the meat at home? I dare say not too many of us, and I'm sure that those who do have far superior ways of harvesting the meat from their goats than the vague admonishment given 2,000 years ago. Okay, let's take a final look at what Jesus had to say about the commandments. Well, nice to see that he got rid of all that worshiping stuff. I mean, really, if I'm worshiping a God who's treating me right, taking care of me, and has guaranteed me an exceedingly happy eternity, why would I want to worship anyone else? So, most of what Jesus had to say is pretty reasonable. All that thou shalt not kill stuff. Only common sense in those days. Except for all those people who just happened to be living in the land of God's chosen and had to be killed in order for the Israelites to move in. But I digress. However, isn't it interesting that this final bit, number 7, about selling all that you have in order to go to heaven, isn't mentioned ever? Maybe that's why the Christians don't want to have this version to be paraded about town. It would save our failing economy, and their churches would no longer look like a mansion built for Hugh Hefner.
So, in closing, let me just say that it's time to let go of this false idea that we get our morals from the Bible, and without the 10 Commandments, we'd all be running around killing each other. Good people are simply that. Good people. It doesn't come from what you read. It comes from who you are. It's as simple as that.
And remember, if a redneck truck driver gets it,
and his wife,
then you should too.
Hi. I know there are a lot of YouTubes out there discussing the inadequacies I know there are a lot of YouTubes out there discussing...
No, you gotta start all the way over. I can't edit this like audio.
Okay.
So you have to, if you screw up, you have to start back at the beginning.
That's what I did.